We're watching that promo right there during the commercial. The soccer logos and like
Primo
badges and stuff, they look so cool. I like that.
I mean, I think anytime you have like a shield, it's going to look cool. Like that's every logo should
like a coat of arms.
Feature. Yes, exactly. All right, let's get to the power rankings. The Goldilocks segment here. Who's too high? Who's too high? Who's too low? And who is just right from Pete's power rankings? Read off the top 10 here first, as well as the bottom 5. Top 10. Kansas City Chiefs stay atop the power rankings, followed by the Detroit Lions, Buffalo Bills at 3, Washington Commanders at 4, Baltimore Ravens at 5, Pittsburgh Steelers at 6, Minnesota Vikings at 7, Green Bay Packers 8, Philadelphia Eagles 9, and then Los Angeles Chargers rounding out the top 10.
By the way, last night after that game, I wrote the top of that power ranking for the blurb for the Chiefs, and I was specifically thinking about you.
Oh,
yeah.
I find myself having these opinions when I'm by myself, and I just think about you guys. And I'm just like, I want to text them and just rub it in right now.
Bottom 5, 28 Jacksonville Jaguars, New England Patriots at 29, Carolina Panthers bumping up to 30.
Hey now.
New Orleans Saints at 31, then the Las Vegas Raiders rounding out the bottom at 32, despite
the Raiders
them beating the number 5 team on this list somehow.
And they have no.
That's still. We're going to look back at that. How the hell did Gardner Minshew win in Baltimore?
Yes. Well, we looked at it at the time. I think we were like, how the hell did that happen? But who's too high? Who's too low? Who's just right? Kyle kicks off.
For me, it's too high. The Pittsburgh Steelers, and I know I'm going to get a lot of people that say, "Well, they've got a great defense, and now they've got a guy who can throw moon balls to their receivers."
Moon balls.
But I want to know if it's going to be something that's sustainable offensively. I want to know if defenses can go out there and give Russell Wilson and George Pickens a hard time. I need to see the Steelers team prove it. This is just one of these gut picks for me. Too high. Pittsburgh Steelers.
I disagree.
I think
it's a gut pick for me.
I think they've earned the right to be there.
Too good, too early for a Tomlin team.
We'll know more about them this week. Look, Russell Wilson's been good the first 2 weeks after slow starts. Played a banged up Jets secondary. They were down two and a half corners by the end of that game. The Giants secondary was down 2 corners in that game. So let's see now. You go out on the road, and we'll see.
Look, I'm happy for Pittsburgh. Here we go, but too high.
Yeah, I think they're about right, but they've earned the right to be there.
Russell Wilson was at one point a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And I think borderline at times during his career, top 5.
Yeah.
I thought he was always
coupled with his
7,
defense.
8, somewhere in there, but you're right.
So even that, just say that. If he could even come close to that, and I think through 2 weeks, he has looked like that, right? He has looked like the guy we saw his final years.
He's recognizable.
Yes. If that is who they have, I don't think they're them to me. They are the Chargers with the number 1 wide receiver, right? It's kind of how they play. They play a very run-first style of football, but they have a guy that can win one-on-one. That's a problem on the outside in George Pickens. So
yeah, but Wilson isn't Herbert.
I know. But
and George Pickens is one of the most unpredictable talents in the National Football League.
That's awesome.
I know he's gotten up for the last 2 games. I know you've gotten massive production out of him, but can we count? I'm going to put on my GM hat here. Can we count on this guy?
Well, do they make a move? That's the other one. There's talk of them making a move to go get a receiver too.
I think he ain't going to be George Pickens, the locked-in version of George Pickens.
See, me personally, I would use Austin more and get him involved. He can run.
I think the Steelers at 6 is about where I'd put them, truthfully. And until Russell doesn't look like old Russell, I'll buy it.
He hasn't looked like old Russell for the beginning of each of the last 2 games. So he does get it going. He throws a couple of moon balls. They win 50-50 balls, and it gets him going. That's what he does.
Somebody's going to rotate somebody else from the top of that shelf.
The Giants and the Jets are no slouches of defenses. He will play lesser defenses on his schedule, and then the result.
But you're at home. The juice of it on night game. They were both night games, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, they were. I mean, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see this week. They play the Commanders and
the Commanders, not a home game. I'd say
see moon balls.
Jets, Giants are probably both Washington. Better defenses.
But he puts moon balls over guys' heads, not 50-50 balls.
Yes.
All right. My too high. I'm going to actually go with the Commanders just because they're at number 4. I think that is a little gassed up given their schedule so far and just who they've beaten. They don't have Their signature wins are the Bears on a Hail Mary and the Cardinals.
But they dominated that game against the Bears. Dominated it.
But they could have lost.
But again,
Right. Well, we could do that every week. Every game.
so until
They
they,
couldn't though.
and I think again, they have their opportunity here the next 2 weeks. They play the Commanders, they play the Ravens.
They play the
Excuse me,
Steelers and they play the
sorry.
Ravens.
They play the Steelers. Gosh, I'm looking
No,
at
not the Ravens. They play
don't
the
play the
Steelers and they play the
They play the Steelers, then they play the Eagles. Sorry,
Eagles.
I was looking at the wrong thing. Steelers and the Eagles, and that's Sunday and then Thursday Night Football. They have their opportunity right there. Those are going to be, I think, the two best teams on their that they've could have beaten so far. They've obviously lost to the two best teams on their schedule so far in the Bucs and the Ravens. So that happens. I'll buy
Bucks,
in. But they're
Bucks
number
was
4
week.
right now.
Bucks was week 1.
Bucks was
Rookie making his first start on the road. That's what that. I mean,
I think again, I have thought they're a great team for a while now. It's just difference between number 4 in the NFL and I think probably number
like who
9.
would you put ahead? Who would you put ahead of them?
I just still think they're behind the likes of like the Packers, the Vikings in the NFC, probably the Eagles.
Healthy
as well.
Packers.
Yeah,
Healthy
Packers
Yeah.
and the Eagles as well. I think
Yeah.
they are.
I'm not a big believer in that Eagles team at all.
I think they played so much better when they're at full strength with AJ Brown.
when they
They're just
throw
so
it to
talented.
Hand
They're
it to
so
Saquon.
They'll
I worry
figure it out.
the
at some point
quarterback.
offensively.
I worry about the quarterback a little.
I
bit.
agree, and I
They've
worry
taken
about
the ball out
Kellen
of his
Moore
hands
too.
with some of the passes they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't. I just went back and watched that game the other day because I did the Jaguar show. He doesn't anticipate, guys. He doesn't anticipate well enough.
And he doesn't, and you have to, with his arm strength, you better anticipate, right?
Right.
You better be throwing early. The whole Tua thing. If you don't have an arm, you better throw before guys think you will. So
I
that's
got
where
mine just right now.
who's too low?
Too low. Too low is the Arizona Cardinals. I think they're a house. I think this football team's gotten better every single week.
14.
I think that they're too low, bro. I think they're too low. And it's not even like looking around at the other teams in their neighborhood in the rankings. It's just based on this. I do mine off vibe. And this Arizona Cardinals team, they're better than the teams ahead, a few of the teams ahead of them.
Like who?
Let's scroll up here. Let's scroll up
Yeah,
on the list.
I like the
Actually,
trade they made too.
I got it on my phone right
They
here.
got Baron Browning
Yeah,
yesterday
get a pass rusher.
for a 6th round pick, a guy who was probably 3rd in the pecking order there.
You
with
think they're
Denver
better than the
Broncos.
49ers?
But now he's the best pass rusher on the Cardinals.
Right.
After the bye week or before the bye week?
Coming up right now. They better than 40. They're not better than.
I think they are.
Oh, I don't.
I do.
I do not. I think
they're
the
hot.
Cardinals are about right.
I
Yeah.
think they're hot right now. I think they're really hot.
I think
they're a
I think it's
house.
one of the great.
I love James Conner.
I think it's one of
Kyler
the great
Murray's-
overachieving stories in the league right now.
which is awesome.
It's a great
Yeah,
story, and
That's
he's done a
It's
great
just like
job.
the defense in Washington, and I'll talk about Washington here in a minute. The team that you said is too high. I think they're just right. I mean, I think that it's like
jumping the gun.
It's like I am jumping the gun. It's like when you see an iceberg in the ocean, you're like, man, that thing is big, and that's what we're saying about the Commanders right now. Look how big it is. You go under the water, there's a lot more iceberg left. I feel like with this team, the way that this defense has been rolling and playing above their weight class the whole year has been impressive. Dan Quinn's got his guys locked in, and I haven't even talked about Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels gives you a chance to win, not only win, dominate every week on offense. He gives you that belief, the same kind of belief that a guy like Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert can instill in a team. That's what Jaden Daniels is doing. And he's still a rookie, which means he's only going to get better as the season goes on. We've yet to get into these really meaningful football games, but you're going to get to see him play against two really good teams in the next few weeks. I'm looking forward to watching him against them.
Here's what else has happened in Washington. An offensive line that was questionable before the season is now pretty darn good.
Yeah.
They went out and they got veterans. Biadasz is playing good at center. They added Allegretti, your buddy.
He's
He's a
kicking ass
tough
in the
guy.
run
He's
game.
a tough guy. And the rookie at left tackle, and he's been in and out of the lineup, but they answered that question at left tackle too. Coleman, he's playing really well at left tackle.
Yes,
Particularly last week was good. So you look at it across the board. Cosby's good at right guard. Your buddy from the Chiefs, Wiley,
he's a fighter out
fighter.
there.
And suddenly a quarterback cures your line. A great quarterback will make it. We see it with the Chiefs. As bad as those tackles are, Mahomes has a way of getting away and making things happen. Eventually, you got to get better. But I think that's what happened with Washington. I'm in agreement. I think that's a
This guy
good football
Jaden
team.
Daniels has just proven something to me week in, week
Yep.
out, man. And as
He's
a
a real
guy,
deal.
and as a guy who's a Bears fan, and you give me hell all the time about the number one pick, and rightfully so. But it's all about this guy. It has nothing to do with comparison. Jaden Daniels is special, and that Hail Mary was a hallmark moment. It's these
They picked the wrong guy in
Some
Chicago.
people,
I'll say it. Nobody says it. I'm saying it. It's over. It's done. He picked the wrong guy.
We talk about like, oh, that guy's the main character. Like, when I talk about Travis Kelce, he's, dating Taylor Swift and Super Bowl champ every year and the nicest guy in the world. He's got 15 catches last night. Jaden Daniels is the main character. You know what I'm talking about? He is the guy that the movie's about. And we're just kind of watching it right now.
I do think, to Pete's point there about they picked the wrong guy, I usually say, you have to wait a few years. I think with the level of play that Jaden Daniels has, it's easy to say it's just like if Caleb Williams ever gets to that level, you're happy as heck, right? At this point, if you're Bears, it's just he's playing at another
one makes it plays and makes it easy. It's easy. The other guys spinning around and
we talked about experience before. Caleb doesn't have the experience that Jaden Daniels does, and I think that's really important. When even a guy like Bo Nix,
we're not writing Caleb off.
Even a guy like Bo Nix who has that kind of experience in college, you can see it translate to his calm.
Nobody's writing Caleb
in
Williams
the NFL. Yeah, I mean that'd be unfair to do.
No, but he's a little. I'm still at USC in him, and I think
it's like saying back in 2020 when Dolphins picked Tua, Chargers picked Herbert. It's like saying that year, if you're just like, okay, they definitely made the wrong decision.
Well, they did.
It's obvious to say. It was obvious to say as a rookie because Herbert was already at a level of play that just and it's
played out that way.
Something about those Oregon guys, man.
So,
yeah,
good rookies.
All Oregon guys, all of them,
ready to go.
My too low, and I think we had this as a too low last week, and we talked about their offense, but I want to talk about them because of their defense against the Los Angeles Rams. I think at 15. I think they're a little bit better than that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm taking them over the Cardinals right now. I think I'm taking them over, even the Texans right now, maybe even the 49ers right now. I just think that this team, and I want to highlight their defense because so much better from the early season because these rookies can get after opposing quarterbacks, whether it's Fisk, whether it's Verse. They just have a much better defensive line.
Omar Spates making plays.
And I gave them credit for. Cam Kinchin's now entering the starting lineup, making plays on the back end. I think this defense has changed a lot since early on in the season, since they gave up, 41 to the Cardinals in week 2. This team now, with that healthy complement of wide receivers, with their O-line even getting more reinforcements in the coming weeks here, I think they're a real threat.
I think they're a threat too. And I think I've moved them up a little bit, and I think they're moving up, and they're legitimately one of the great coach, great quarterback, and the defense is growing up. And
young, hungry,
and
defense.
Les Snead knows what he's doing. I've known Les for a long time.
Yep.
Les started his career in Jacksonville as a gopher. And you know what his job was?
Washing the GM's car.
No, you know what his job was? Main job? Go get Andre Rison up out of bed to make sure he made it to practice. He'd go there and get him. He'd have to go get him. And Les Snead knows what he's doing when it comes to picking football players. And he knows how to restock the roster. He knows what it takes. You look at that draft this year. It's incredible. He's had a lot of really good drafts. He knows what it takes to build a roster.
People said when Aaron Donald left that this defense is going to take a decade to get this defense back. Well, you go look at a decade ago, what they did with that defensive line room. And it was my brother. It was Robert Quinn. Aaron Donald came in the fold later on, but it was a bunch of these high round draft picks. Now you're starting to get the same thing out of this group here. You're getting a ton of production out of youth draft picks. It's a testament to Les Snead and his knowledge. That's a good point.
They're getting better. You're correct. You're 100% correct that defense is getting better by the week.
Yeah, especially that defensive line. I didn't even mention Kobe Turner, Byron Young. Those guys are both in their second year, both playing well as well. So they can.
The corners are still answers. A little bit of a question.
Yes,
I'm not saying it's a great Darius defense. Williams is
they'll be tested in these track meets week in, week out.
All right, who's ranked just right? Oh, you already went.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped the gun.
Commanders rant. I'm going to say the Chargers at number 10. I've been a little hesitant to really go all in, even though I picked them to make the playoffs. Like I was a fan of them early on.
Quentin Johnston can catch now.
But I do think the passing evolution we've seen in recent weeks, the emergence of guys like Quentin Johnston this past week, like Ladd McConkey in that offense. I just think when you're playing defense as well as they are, and when you have a complementary offense that won't turn the ball over, will run it well, and now guys you can semi-rely on at the receiver position, that's a top 10 team, in my opinion. Now, we went over yesterday about how they really haven't been tested by a top offense. The best offense they played all year is probably the Chiefs, right? They haven't played one of these juggernauts, so we'll see.
Was it the anemic Chiefs?
And it kind of was. It was when.
But they've also been
the game that Rashee Rice got.
They've also had injuries on that side of the ball that have impacted him too. I mean, Bosa's been in and out of the lineup and hasn't been himself either, by the way. So as he gets healthier, that defense is going to get healthier. I like what they've done because I was concerned about Harbaugh and Roman and how you would use Herbert. In the last 3 weeks, he's averaging over 300 yards passing. So that tells me they're smart enough to realize what they have there.
Mark Trestman's there too. Mark Trestman, who I think is a really, really bright offensive mind.
Very.
That's a guy that doesn't get named a lot when you talk about the Chargers. But I remember because my rookie year, that was my head coach who drafted me. Every single meeting, we had answers for pressures. We had answers for coverage. We had answers in the run game. And you're starting to see some of that happen with the Chargers. To your point about Justin Herbert, when you got a quarterback like that, you want to throw the football, right? You and me, if we're the coaches, we're like, let's throw it around the yard, Justin. But they ran the hell out of the football early. Now they're starting to shift into throw it more so they can be explosive on the offensive side of the ball. Your guy, Quentin Johnston, coming around, learning how to catch the football. They're happy to see that in Los Angeles.